Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what happened today, a pretty volatile day in the market once again, and what I personally believe will happen next, and really what we can expect moving forward, at least from my point of view. With all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link is down below. For just $3 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, technical analysis, options flow on Tesla, sometimes other stocks as well. So definitely check that out if you're interested. I'm constantly posting with my members, especially on volatile days like this, at least whenever necessary, of course. But yeah, a lot of posts today throughout the day. So definitely check it out. Just $3 a month. Link is in the description below. Link at the top of the description, I should add, for the YouTube membership. But let's just jump into a Tesla closing the day. Actually up ever so slightly, 0.75%, closing at just shy above $200 per share, which unfortunately compared to the market is definitely an underperformance, with the market actually up more than Tesla is today. So that's definitely a bit of an underperformance, as the market pretty much prompted Tesla up with it. But unfortunately, the market and Tesla really couldn't hold its gains. Now, to be fair, the market sold off pretty aggressively towards the last hour of the day, which I was telling my members about. I was pretty much telling them QQQ is pretty much, it's right at the resistance level. I can even show you the screenshot. I actually did that one on my phone. Right? Here's one of them, for instance, right? Almost a profession came into resistance, right? And I give another one over here on my phone as well, pretty much saying how it's pretty much right at resistance. This, you can see that they were at 445, 446. We're at 439 now, right? QQQ definitely finding a bit of an issue there, right? So at the moment, the way I look at this, which of course affects Tesla, indirectly, I guess. Sometimes Tesla just completely ignores the market, to be fair, but assuming it doesn't, the market, the way I look at it is, at least in the 1 hour, this just looks like a dead cat bounce, right? That when you get these kind of bounces that look like this, it just screams dead cat bounce to me. And on top of that, we were pumping on low volume, right? The volume today on the market was lower than yesterday, right? Definitely a little bit on the lower end, right? At least compared to the last few days, and at least compared to the selling pressure, really. But the thing that really, I didn't like too much is the fact that when we did start the selling towards the end of the day, you can see the volume did spike once again as the selling began, which is a little bit concerning as well. Now, going back to Tesla, of course, let's talk about this, right? What do we see here? Well, it's still kind of pretty simple, right? I still lean bearish, right? Again, we had a pretty decent dip this morning, right? So if you bought that dip, I did sell cash secured puts. Like I said, my strategy right now is just simply selling cash secured puts. I'm very kind of risk off right now. I'm entering trades, but I'm not very aggressive right now. I'm just selling cash secured puts. I bought back like half of them already for pretty much 50% profit, honestly, which is great. And now I'm still holding some, but I'm ready to deploy more tomorrow, for instance, if necessary. Why tomorrow? Well, because tomorrow, in my opinion, is it's pretty important for a few reasons. Now, the reasons are pretty simple. So whenever you have massive sell-offs like this, whichever stock, doesn't matter if it's Tesla, the market, NVIDIA, whatever. Whenever you have a massive sell-off like we did like this, and we finally kind of find that rough base potentially, like at least, we find some support, that's when, in my opinion, the 3-day rule begins, right? So the 3-day rule is essentially, once we find that area that we potentially may base in, or at least there's some evidence of basing, right? The 3-day rule implies the fact that if we cannot... So in this case, for instance, let me just reiterate this. The key resistance points for Tesla is, well, first of all, we have that 200-day moving average, right? Which is pretty much sitting at, 203.5. We rejected out of yesterday. We pretty much rejected out of today. That's number one. We also have this green trend line that we're pretty much right at, if not below. That's number two. Number three, obviously we have the 205-ish resistance level that I really want to break above, which is pretty much, the support right here, resistance right here. You can see here, right? 204, 205. And of course, we also have the gap fill sitting at pretty much 207.5 roughly. Those are the levels I really want to break, right? Those levels need to break for me, for Tesla to be bullish again, and for me to lean bullish. At the moment, I lean bearish, as long as we're underneath those three main levels. 200-day moving average, and honestly, pretty much 204 to 208. That like $4-ish range, right? Very important to me for Tesla to get above it and hold above it. Very, very crucial. The 3-day rule relative to that works as follows. This is how I look at it, right? We have about 3 days, starting yesterday, arguably. If you want to be lenient, you can say starting today, but I started yesterday, mainly because we did come up to that general level and we did kind of find a rejection. So starting yesterday, today was the second day, tomorrow was the third day. If by the end of the third day, so tomorrow, the Wednesday, we still have issues going well above that range, right? We still have issues crossing above the 200-day moving average, and that kind of 205-ish to 208-ish rough level, right? And we just simply cannot go back above it, right? We have problems with it. That is concerning. I want to see us to get back above it within those 3 days. That will be bullish. That will be potentially, reversal, trend reversaling. If that's not even a word, reversaling, you know what I mean, right? That will be really, really good news, at least for me, in my opinion, in my eyes. If we cannot do that by the end of tomorrow, it's not the end of the world, obviously. It could still happen later, but it just means to me, at least, that the signs are pointing for potential further continuation to the downside, or at least sideways, right? Moving upwards just isn't something I would hold my breath for anymore, right? Until we actually, go back above it. But just even the fact that we can't do it for those 3 days is already concerning. So that's how I look at it. And those are the resistance levels above us, right? Very crucial for us to break, in my opinion. And then as long as we remain below, I lean bearish. I say the word lean because I'm not fully bearish, right? It's hard for me to be full bearish on Tesla, but I am very, very, very underweight on Tesla right now. Again, until we break those. I'm just personally selling cash secured puts pretty much against the shares that I would normally want to, not against the shares, but that would equate to owning the amount of shares I would like to own in the 180s whenever we get any drops like we did this morning, for instance. And otherwise, I'm just kind of chilling and I'm waiting and I'm letting the market show me where we want to go. Keep in mind, we did essentially pump today, right? We had a decent pump today. We did end up closing green, even though we opened up pretty aggressively red, at least in the morning. But it also happened on Tesla on pretty darn low volume, right? The volume is very, very low. I don't like to see that. Even on yesterday's pretty substantial pump, really low volume. I mean, look at NVIDIA, for instance. The volume on yesterday's pump, decently high, right? One of the highest volumes we had in NVIDIA for weeks, right? AMD, if I go down over here, definitely a bit on the lower end as well, I guess. AMD, I guess, is not the best example. But like SPY and QQQ, you can see the volume on these bad boys yesterday, astronomically higher than pretty much anything else. Tesla, even on yesterday's pump, low volume. That's low volume. I don't like to see that. I want to see these kind of days and these kind of pumps on higher volume. So that's concerning to me. All these things added up together. It's just, I'm not feeling that bullish right now. Again, if we do cross above, like I said, at 205 to 208, we cross above, we start holding, we don't just collapse right back under, pretty much instantly. Now we can have a conversation about moving back up. Now we can start being a little bit more bullish. Now I can be like, all right, now we're talking. Until that happens, unfortunately, and I hate to be like this, I hate to say this, I lean bearish. It is what it is. I could be completely wrong. I want to make that very clear. I could be super wrong, but that's just the way I look at it. Now, moving forward, if Tesla ends up losing 200, that'll be obviously a bad sign. But in my opinion, even just losing about 198-ish, would already, start signaling some red flags, right? That would be already a little bit concerning. We'd probably start making our way back down even further. And especially if we start losing about 195 to about 193-ish, if we start losing this little range right here that we bounced off of pretty much this morning, really, that'll be even more concerning. And I think that we could easily come back into the 180s, right? That for sure would happen. But again, I also want to make it clear, this green trend line, right? We held this ever since the lows, pretty much the lows that really bounced us up pretty aggressively, came back into it, bounced off of it once again. And ideally, I would have liked to hold this. This is why when I was talking about this candle 2 days ago on, Friday, I kept saying ideally we hold here. Ideally, we hold around this 205 level, the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, the 200-day moving average, and essentially would have pretty much roughly held this trend line. Unfortunately, right now, at least for me, we're pretty much at, if not below this trend line. Also some, cause for concern potentially, right? Obviously, if we recapture it tomorrow, okay, great. That's a different story. But if we do not, this story unfortunately continues to get a little bit less convincing of a bullish thesis, right? That's just the way I look at it. Again, you can hate me or love me for it. Don't really care. That's not going to change my thesis, and that's not going to change with what I am personally doing and seeing, right? That's just how I see it. It is what it is. If we do come back down, I do expect us to probably revisit somewhere around this low 180s. If we lose the low 180s, obviously, we're probably going to be entering the 170s. And unfortunately, if we lose those low 180s, I think that, the chances of us coming back down to this weekly trend line, this green trend line that did find us some decent bounces so far. Every time we revisited this trend line, we did find some pretty sizable bounces, right? All the way back here at about $100 per share quite a while ago now, right? And just recently at that earnings, remember, we came right into it, bounced off of it pretty much to perfection, right? Around this, 140-ish range. Found a beautiful bounce from there as well. So unfortunately, there is a possibility that, we do revisit it once again. I'm not going to say for sure it's going to happen, but I definitely wouldn't discredit it entirely either. I think it's a very real possibility. So definitely check it out, or not check it out, but, keep it in the back of your mind as a potential catalyst, as a potential thing that can happen, right? It is what it is. But that's kind of how I'm looking at it as of right now. Again, the weekly still looking kind of bearish. The stochastic still leaning bearish over here. You can see, right? We have, the BX trender making lower highs. definitely some signs are there that, the weekly is just not looking too hot right now. We have the daily chart on the BX trender still making lower lows, even though we did end technically green today. Also a little bit on the concerning side, right? There's just not a lot of momentum for Tesla right now. So again, I'd personally be a little bit careful here, at least until we break above 205/208 and start holding above it. That is what I would want to be seeing personally. But that's just kind of what I'm seeing, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm thinking. Of course, I could be wrong. In terms of options flow, actually some decent options flow came in today. NVIDIA with the most bullish flow, which is good to see. But definitely some bullish, bearish rather, flow came in, right? You have a 1.72 million here. Puts came in, right? 840K, 730K, all 240 strikes, all for November 15th. So they clearly expect further downside from here. They came in pretty much right within the last 30 seconds of the market. So we'll see. To be fair, we did have some bullish calls come in. We had a 5.5 million call come in, but it is a year out. So, obviously I think a year out Tesla will be fine. It's just what happens, then within the next, few months, even month. That's the question. That's the uncertainty thing. I think long term, I'm very bullish. Long term, I think Tesla is perfectly fine. I think long term Tesla will be doing phenomenally. Short term, well, that's a different story, right? 2 million put over here came in September 20th, 200 strike, right? So a lot of puts came in today. Some calls though, some calls definitely came in. For instance, over here when Tesla was at 198, 2 million call came in though. Tesla, to be fair, went to about almost 203 by that point, so they could have easily taken profit on that. Who knows for sure? Because Tesla is nowhere to be found on the bullish flow here, right? And if anything, actually, it's on the bearish flow. So I'd assume these calls were taken for profits. We'll see, of course, if that's the case or not. But all that being said and done, that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at right now, and that's kind of the main thing I'm seeing. So with all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. But as per usual, I'll see you for the next one. Peace.